so great to see all of you. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Atlanta and our grand reopening. We have a fantastic program which will begin shortly. Before we get to that, just a few COVID reminders in the spirit of the moment. Masks, of course, are required at all times unless you're eating, drinking, or here at the podium. We have COVID-friendly spacing that we hope you will please honor. And then I know we are gregarious Rotarians who love to shake hands, but I strongly encourage your best elbow and fist bumps to greet one another. I am so excited now to introduce my good friend and fellow high school track mate. It's hard to believe we were on the same track team. Chuck Easley, who's going to give us our introduction or invocation today. Thank you.
What a wonderful time. If we could please bow our heads. We have come at this moment. We have come at this time. We know not what the answers are, but we do know questions. Is this a moment for us here at Rotary to be better? In essence, there's a lot of excitement for us because truly this is a beginning in many respects. But the question is a beginning of what? For what? Atlanta needs us. Atlanta Rotary. I was struck driving in today by the number of homeless people I saw. It has grown since I last came here. Isn't it intriguing that just less than 2 generations ago, something that people would wear to scare others and intimidate, and then something that absolutely would help people from elements of warfare, is now being used to help us live from a virus with the same symbol. There's so many different meanings across our history, and this is our chance to claim it. Let us have the spirit of our betterment, the spirit of what may be higher power for us to do more than what we believe we can do by ourselves. This moment is telling because we have to ask ourselves, with Drew having to shut down in our relationship, have we reached out to him? With our presence and our impact on polio, have we been asked? Are we part of the conversation with the current virus that exists, given our history of success? Can we bring clarity and confirm hope versus despair, create versus crush? Because see, if we can profit through patience and participation versus polarization, we're better. The Olympics is going on, and the biggest thing that drives that is swifter, higher, stronger, what they've added together. You see, in this time where everyone's thinking about team, Rotary is a team. True leadership, like a mustard seed in Atlanta, came to create a new beginning. This is our moment. A noted leader of young men, Pete Carroll, talked about your threes, your EQ, your IQ, and your RQ. But the bottom line is your RQ is your responsibility quotient. Are we stepping to the plate? Are we accepting our moment? Where will we be as we strengthen ourselves, as we come out here better than we came in, with a committed, renewed energy with this new beginning? And ultimately, 365.2 days from now, where will we be when we look back? 525,600 minutes for those that are eminently inclined. What will happen? Swifter, higher, stronger, together. Our challenge as we come together in arms and celebrate this moment is will we be done?
Thank you so much, Geoff. Beautiful words to reunite us today. Please enjoy your lunch. We'll have just a few minutes to eat, and then we're going to get right into our program. See you soon. Welcome again to all of you. We have a few announcements. Please continue to enjoy your lunch. A few special guest introductions. First, Lieutenant Governor, we are so honored to have you here. Really look forward to your remarks soon on the program. We have a number of guests. I had initially planned to introduce each of you one by one, but because there's so many, if any guests could please stand and remain standing so that we can applaud you and welcome you to Rotary. I also want to say a very special welcome to my family, my husband Chad, if you'll stand up again please, and two of my three children, Caroline and Andy, if you'll stand. My third child, Will, is in mandatory football practice today, but I'm so honored to have him here as my rock of support for the year ahead. And my father, Blaine, could not be here due to COVID precautions, but you know he is cheering as he will be watching the recorded version of this later this week. So I wouldn't be here if it weren't for my father, and he's the one who got me into Rotary many, many years ago. I am very excited and proud to recognize that we have 46 new members who have joined over the last 18 months. And I would like you all to stand if you're a new member who joined in that period. We have a slide. We're going to show all of their names. If you'll please stand, our new members. Let's all give them a warm round of applause. Did such a great job introducing them one by one virtually, but I hope you'll all have a chance to meet them and put the faces and names together today. We have a great agenda. Quick look ahead. We've mixed things up a little bit. We're going to get right to our main program in the interest of respect for our Lieutenant Governor. And following that, we will have some club business. I will be sharing a preview of the year ahead. And then past President Cannon will be presenting his annual awards. So thank you as we shuffle things up a little bit today. And now I'm pleased to introduce our fellow Rotarian, Joe Evans. Joe is chairman of State Bank and Trust and vice chairman of Cadence Bank Corporation. He is truly one of the superstars in our Georgia banking industry. He has built and sold 3 Georgia banks. He launched State Bank and won national acclaim for that. And then he was the winner of American Banker's Lifetime Achievement Award. Joe has a fantastic perspective on this state and its opportunities, and he will now introduce the Lieutenant Governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Wow. It was one day, probably back late 2017 to early 2018, that Alan Toms, who ran State Bank's SBA division, now runs that for Cadence, called me and asked if I would be willing to meet with a friend of his from church who's running for Lieutenant Governor. Well, I think very highly of Alan and take his recommendation seriously, and I agreed. It also didn't hurt that Alan told me that Geoff Duncan went to Georgia Tech. Geoff and I spent nearly 2 hours together that day. And for people who know me, the fact that I spent more than 15 minutes with a prospective office seeker on the first visit said something special was going on. Well, most of you know that Geoff came to Texas baseball pitcher, pitched Tech to the College World Series, got drafted by the Marlins, married his high school sweetheart, Brooke, who also happens to be a Georgia Tech graduate with a higher GPA. He spent 6 years in the minor leagues with the Marlins before a shoulder injury sidelined his baseball career. Just subsequently became a successful entrepreneur, and as he conveyed to me, felt led by faith to public service. He successfully ran for the Georgia House in 2012, and then was subsequently elected Lieutenant Governor in 2018 by the skin of his teeth. Now, I'm not going to wear you out with his legislative accomplishments, although to me they're significant. He's been very active in health care and economic development issues. But as I think most of today's challenges need leadership more than they need legislation, I'm going to spend the rest of the time that I have allotted sharing some things that I've observed about Geoff Duncan, the man, instead of Geoff Duncan, the politician. First, I think Geoff views his most important constituents as being his wife, Brooke, and his 3 boys. And he knows that whatever he does or says publicly, he'll have to answer to them around the dinner table. When Geoff speaks of being led by faith in public service, I think he means following that simple yet divine command to love our neighbor and to define our neighbor in very broad terms. While Geoff's a philosophical conservative, he's also a Georgia Tech trained problem solver who doesn't profess to have all the answers. And I very much admire his willingness to reach across the aisle to listen and seek common ground. From the onset of our relationship, I've held his integrity and his backbone in high esteem. And I think he showed those colors brilliantly after the November elections when asked by a very influential voice in his party to do something that Geoff didn't think was right, that Geoff Duncan stood up and said no. I'm proud of him. Fellow Rotarians and guests, it's my privilege and honor to introduce to you our Lieutenant Governor and my friend, Geoff Duncan.
Thank you, Joe. It absolutely never gets old hearing you say nice things about me. I hope everybody in this room knows the Joe Evans that I know. He's an amazing individual, and he does so many great things for us on the political side, introduces us to people literally all over the country that can help us politically. But the most important trait you have is the gift of wisdom. And I'm certain there's people all across this room that have been able to experience that wisdom in their lives, both personally and professionally. And I cannot thank you enough for being able to speak that wisdom into my life. It's so hard to believe that I'm already in my 3rd year of being the lieutenant governor. I've spent so much time campaigning to be the lieutenant governor, and now we're already 3 years into the term. But really what catches my breath is the number of once-in-a-generation issues that have come across our desk in those 3 years in this role. And certainly the global pandemic, wow. We're still in the throes of trying to figure out how to navigate it, but certainly I would believe that to be a once-in-a-generation event that we've had to deal with the disruptions. A whipsawing economy that was roaring, and then in a matter of hours it seemed to turn off and head for the basement and recovers in a way that's hard to calculate and hard to understand. Racial tensions and riots that have disrupted communities all over this country, but specifically right here in our home city. And a post-election disaster that certainly has disrupted and created chaos that, in my opinion, was unnecessary. We continue to deal with all of those issues, and they continue to be an influence in the way we make our decisions. But a new issue that continues to pop up that is affecting all of our lives, and all of our businesses, and all of our communities is crime. Crime is quickly becoming an issue that is hard to operate your business or your family, or to make decisions. I spent this weekend here in the city of Atlanta with my wife as her +1, as she called me. It was at her company's convention. And it was just unbelievable to see the quietness in this city, the lack of activity, the homelessness, and the things that we need to start to tackle and understand. But crime is something that, in my opinion, has been politicized way too much. I'm wired to be a problem solver. I got into politics because I wanted to put policy over politics. I wanted to solve problems, and as I look at the crime issue, we need real answers for real problems. And so last week I I launched a big initiative, and some would say it was too big. I argue that it's too small. A $250 million tax credit that empowers corporations and citizens to write checks directly to their local law enforcement agencies. And in return, you get a dollar-for-dollar tax credit, just like the World Health Care bill that we passed a number of years ago that I'm sure many of you participate in for tax purposes, and to most importantly help a rural hospital. In return, these law enforcement agencies get to spend those dollars in three ways. They get to pay their officers more, they get to hire more officers, and they get to train them even better. And to me, that's a bipartisan solution to a bipartisan problem. Crime affects Democrats and Republicans equally. It's ideas like this that really allow us to try to move forward and to try to change the trajectory. Both political sides are guilty of trying to politicize every single issue. But you as business owners, you as community volunteers, you as community advocates, you as parents want solutions to real problems. You know, when I came into the Senate, I initially ran for the job because I wanted to put policy over politics, because I really understood the value of getting the policy right. I was one of those people at the Capitol that thought if you get the policy right, then it makes the politics easy. But for some reason, folks in elected office, too many of them, think that you got to get the politics right to then get the policies right. And to me, that creates divides, it doesn't create solutions. And so once being elected in the Senate, or as Lieutenant Governor, being able to be the President of the Senate, I worked hard to create a culture inside the Senate. And one of the first opportunities I had to address our senators, both Democrats and Republicans, I told them that honesty was the currency I wanted to exchange. I wanted to be honest with them, and I wanted them to be honest with me. I'm grateful for that honesty and that culture that we built in the Senate. And I think back to the last 3 sessions, the amazing work that we as a team have done, bipartisan team, and tackled extremely difficult issues, extremely divisive issues, like passing hate crimes legislation. We were able to work in a bipartisan format, and I've created lifelong friendships on the other side of the aisle because we were able to work together. Because we were able to look each other in the eyes and understand that we had each other's best interest in heart and in mind to solve a big problem. I'm proud of the nearly 50 bipartisan health care bills that we passed in the Georgia Senate and in the Georgia House and the governor signed. These are big, important issues that, folks, when you go to your mailbox and you have a premium payment due, or you can't find a doctor, you don't care if a Democrat or Republican's in charge, you want a problem solved. I'm grateful for the support of the governor and so many folks to allow us to pass these bipartisan health care bills. And in the midst of COVID, we were able to work together in a bipartisan format to come up with COVID liability protection so that businesses would be sued out of business because of frivolous claims of COVID. If they're following state, local, and federal laws, they should not lose their business or lose the ability to keep their business open. It's this type of mindset that really drove me in the direction to think of a new direction forward, a new way to focus our energy and efforts towards solving problems. And so many of you have heard me talk about a GOP 2.0. It's just a new mindset. It's not a new party. It's just a better direction forward. And if done right, in my opinion, a GOP 2.0 will make both parties even better. This isn't about winning elections. This is about creating a movement that allows us to start to focus in on real problems for real people. Now, I announced a few months ago, so this isn't breaking news. Don't run to your Twitter accounts. I'm not running again for re-election. And it's not because I don't like the job. It's not because I don't think my team has been very successful in trying to help shape the policy direction of this great state. It's because I feel like there's an opportunity to focus my skill set and my perspective in an even better direction. To try to help heal and rebuild the party that I'm a part of. Not just here in Georgia, but all over the country. Because I think right here, right now, we need it. I've got this book coming out in September, and this isn't a plug for the book. But I've got a book coming out in September, and as I was putting these notes together, I wanted to tell you a story that I put in the book. And I've never written a book before, and it's a very cumbersome process, but it was one that I absolutely enjoyed. And my wife saw me the other day writing notes down on a piece of paper. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm writing notes for my next book." And she's like, "Oh, God, here we go again." But I'm excited about it. There's a story I told in the book, and I didn't start this process off wanting to tell cheesy baseball stories. Because none of mine I didn't win the World Series, and I didn't, do anything on TV, or my baseball card was worth, I think it's up to 8 cents. But baseball shaped so much of my perspective. Just like many of you growing up, your first job didn't buy your house, but it helped you figure out how to buy your first house, or why it was important to buy your first house. So here's a cheesy little baseball story. There's a guy named John Oliver. I don't know if any baseball fans here know that in 1999, I got a call early in the morning to go show up at the big league stadium in spring training for the Marlins. And so my heart was beating. I was excited. I was like, here's my moment. And so I show up to the big league stadium for spring training, and I started the game. Actually, I walked in the clubhouse and I had my equipment bag over my shoulder. And I walked in, I felt like the bat boy. I mean, I had half these guys' baseball cards in a shoebox under my bed still. And so I finally get out in the field and play catch and watch the game, and I'm down in the bullpen, and the phone rings and it says, hey, get Duncan ready. So we're playing the Mets, and I come in the game, and my heart's pounding a million miles an hour, but there was, I knew this was the right place at the right time for Geoff Duncan to be. And so I'm sure it was going to go exactly the way I dreamed about it. I was going to strike out 3 guys in a row and roll into high fives. So the first guy comes up, the first pitch I throw, he hits a C to right field, base hit. All right, that's beginner's luck, no big deal. Next guy comes up, it might have been the first or second pitch I throw. The guy hits an absolute laser to right field again. I thought, all right, I got to be a little better at this. The next guy I walk. So I got bases loaded, no outs, exactly like I dreamed about it my entire life. I thought my knees were knocking when I got out there. I mean, I'm sure people in the stands could see my knees knock. So I hear the announcer come on and he says, now batting, the first baseman, John Oliver. John Oliver was 6'6", 250 pounds, and he was runner-up in the batting title in 1998. This guy was a professional hitter on all extremes. So he gets in the box, and I get him 3-2. Fastballs and sliders, and get him to 3-2. And all of a sudden, the catcher calls timeout, and he comes running out to the mound, and he says, hey, by the way, can you throw a 3-2 changeup? I said, yeah, I guess I can. He goes, great. I said, why? He goes, because if you throw him a fastball, he's going to take your head off. And so sure enough, I got the sign, I threw a changeup. He was just a 1 inch out front on his front foot. He pops it up to the shortstop, catches it 1 out. Next guy comes up, ground ball, double play, hitting him. I thought that story for me was about that moment in time. I thought it was about getting out of that inning, and it was about baseball. That story has taught me about being prepared to throw the right pitch at the right time. You've got to be prepared. You've got to have the skill sets to deliver the pitch, but you also have to have the courage to do it. And to me, that's where I started with GOP 2.0. This is about an effort that helps us heal and rebuild the process. I have this acronym called PET, P-E-T. I call it my pet project. My wife says you should have done better, but it's my pet project. It's policy, empathy, and tone. I want to steer the conversation back to where I think a majority of people in America want it. To talk about honing policies that help you run your business, and help you raise your family, and help you keep your streets safe. I want to be empathetic more than 2 weeks before an election to run the right ads with the right people. I want to sit down at that kitchen table with that single mom with 2 jobs and 3 kids and ask her what her challenges are instead of telling her that she should vote for us. And I want to do all of that with a better tone. I want to speak a tone that we speak at our boardrooms, and at our kitchen tables, and in our churches, and in our streets, and on our ball fields. I get it. It's a long shot. I've been an underdog my entire life, and I absolutely despise it. But what I've learned to realize is I'm good at doing it. This is a challenge worth chasing. It's going to take time as a country to heal. It's going to take time to refocus our energy. It's going to take time to stop our addiction to 10-second sound bites and mean tweets. But if we're going to truly be the nation that our founding fathers expected us to be, we've got to rise to the occasion. We've got to answer the call. We've got to stop worrying about partisan corners and start focusing our efforts on solutions as we move forward. In the spirit of GOP 2.0, I want to talk about the pandemic for a moment. So much energy and effort is focused on masks and lockdowns and mandates. We are currently facing a significant increase in cases. We all can see the data now. We understand the metrics of the last 15, 18 months of what's coming our way. Certainly there's an increase in cases. So I think we all know the solution to this, it's vaccines. Right? The vaccine is a new tool in our hands to help protect us against this. When we talk about mandates and everything else, let's put away this partisan bickering match around masks and lockdowns, and let's all go focus on the solution. Trying to get folks vaccinated. Interesting conversation happened over the weekend, just a few blocks from here, with one of my wife's friends. She quietly told me, she said, "I'm not vaccinated. I have a couple of questions. I just have a couple of questions." And she said, everybody keeps telling me to go talk to my healthcare provider. Well, how do you pick up the phone and call your healthcare provider? She was right. I think there's millions of Americans that are one question away from getting vaccinated. We ought to lock hands as CEOs and businesses and sports heroes and actors and large corporations, and we need to band together and figure out, and let's do it here in Georgia, how to answer folks' questions and not embarrass them into getting vaccines, but get those one or two questions answered to help them get vaccinated, to allow us to be able to keep our businesses open, to keep our schools open, to keep our streets safe. This is our opportunity here in Georgia to be different, to not fall into the trappings of the outside 5% that want us to get into a fist fight. But I see this as an opportunity to work together. So as you listen to me message in the coming weeks and months, I'm going to spend my time trying to inform everybody, looking for opportunities to answer those questions, to partner with pharmaceuticals and businesses as we move forward. Because for me, this is a bipartisan problem that needs a bipartisan solution. I think we have an opportunity here in Georgia to lead by example, to stop being in the spotlight for negative reasons. I want to be in the spotlight because of positive reasons. And I think a room like this, it resonates. So I encourage you to go back to whatever your sphere of influence is and look for opportunities to encourage those folks to get vaccinated. In closing, whether you like this or not, I'm a lieutenant governor for 17 more months. Probably divides the room in half. But I want to continue to focus and gain great momentum on the big issues that we've talked about and we've been able to move forward on. We're going to tackle crime in a bipartisan way. We're going to build coalitions with folks. We're going to try to find the real problems, not the politically popular angles, but try to find real solutions. I think of what we've done with foster care. I think of all of the big efforts and the increased tax credits that we were able to pass this year. I think of all of the harnessing the power of the 4 C's. Right? I talk about churches and charities and corporations and citizens being the front lines of defense against poverty and all the issues that circle poverty. I think we've got an opportunity to make a big difference. And last but not least, the technology capital of the East Coast is alive and well. This whole big idea that started on the campaign trail and then became materialized because people reached out to us and believed us that we could become the technology capital of the East Coast. Partners in the room that helped us be able to facilitate an idea to now become Partnership for Inclusive Innovation. This is real. Every business in the 21st century is a technology company, and we want to make sure that they have a safe place to call home here in Georgia. We want to make sure that they're able to grow their businesses and our next generation is able to educate themselves here and to be a part of the 21st global economy. It's an honor to be your Lieutenant Governor. I promise you I'm going to work hard. I'm going to run through the finish line in my term, and then I'm going to continue to work hard to represent as many Americans as I possibly can to be able to make sure this country can achieve its dreams. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
We have time for a few questions. You can either shout it out.
If I did this right, I was going to leave time for one question.
You can either shout it out from where you are, or we have a microphone down front if that's easier.
Right here.
RK, yes.
You are a rare politician. What can we do for you to help change your mind, stay in politics?
Yes. Look, I'm not running for politics. I'm just looking for a better opportunity to aim my skill set, right? Look, I hope that one day this creates an opportunity to run for office again. I love being in elected office. But right now, the challenge is too big for me to turn my eyes, and I think there's an opportunity for us to help heal and rebuild this process.
Thank you.
Senator Governor, thank you for your time today. You focus a lot on technology, and I think you actually ran a technology company. So thank you for being supportive of the tech community. What are some things you think we need to be doing in Georgia to further the growth of technology, in particular bringing capital to the state to help to fuel the growth of those companies?
Yeah, I think it's an important opportunity for us to focus. It's an ecosystem. Capital doesn't chase a lottery ticket. They chase the safest bet as possible. We got to continue to make sure our K-12 system is digitally ready. We got to make sure that we've got a technical program that continues to weave itself into communities all over the state. Making sure our four-year programs are producing the talent necessary and keep them here. Making sure that the business climate is inviting with regulations and tax policies. All of that will be a safe place to call home for capital as it continues to flow in. But we want to make sure our biggest thinkers, our biggest ideas, our most investable ideas stay here. What we don't want to see is leakage of 5-person startups that are going to end up being billion-dollar unicorns chase a $5 billion check on the West Coast or in the Northeast or in Texas. We want to make sure that they feel comfortable staying here and growing here. And to me, that's the best place for capital to come and stay.
The question from Miller?
Thank you for the great lecture. 2.0, is there a source that you can go to? Because I know a lot of people are very, very enthused about supporting this program. A lot of people feel like they're in with it without a party. So what's the source of the website?
Thanks for the question. GOP2.org is our website, just as a basic piece of information. It's a 501c4, and that's for intentional purposes. And this is not about a book. This is not about an organization. This is about a movement. And so we're creating. This is much like a startup, right? Seed capital, and friends and family to start with. But this is about a movement, and certainly there's more information at GOP2.org. Great to see you.
Got one more question.
This is always the dangerous one. Somebody's been waiting their whole life to ask this.
Geoff, down here.
Go there, I think I can check. How can we make better use of our diversity receiving club and beyond the typical library? We have more and more Islamic people in the club, Buddhist people in the club, Jewish people in the club, as well as, I think, the vast majority is about Asian Americans. Since you're a solution oriented, how can we make better use of this?
Well, for me, as I build organizations in the private sector and also in the public sector, the greatest gift of inclusivity to me is perspective. It adds perspective to your operation, to your vision, to your project. And so I think making sure that those voices are not just entered in as members of, but truly including them into the decision-making and the thought process and allowing them to be part of the idea. Because that's really genuinely where I believe inclusivity takes hold. And it becomes not just fractional elements, but it becomes a long-term relationship. And for me, when communities feel dovetailed into the overall project, that's really the want. They want to be engaged and they want to feel like their voice is heard. And so we've all run organizations where when that magic happens, when that person's at your boardroom table that's able to offer up a story or perspective or an angle that makes the overall organization better and stronger, that's where the magic happens. And I think a group like this is the same way, gaining that community perspective. And it's never been more important than now to be inclusive. It's never been more important now to let any sort of preconceived notions or political ideologies disrupt gaining somebody's perspective. Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Geoff, for that.
Thank you so much for your leadership and your vision and the path forward that you are preparing for all of us. Really appreciate you being with us today. Okay, so we will now shift to some club business. I've had a chance over the past couple of weeks to get my feet wet. And in the course of that, I've really been doing a lot of thinking about the year ahead, and I wanted to share some of those thoughts with all of you. It's been a tough year for all of us. You've heard a lot about that year already today from our speakers, and whether it's the months of virtual programs or the pain that we've all felt from COVID with our own families, even with the loss of several fellow beloved Rotarians, it's been a tough time. And then when we go beyond our walls here, and again you heard from Chuck earlier and from the Lieutenant Governor, Violent crime is surging, homelessness is up. Atlanta is #1 in the US in the gap between the haves and the have-nots. And there is a 25-year difference in life expectancy between Bankhead and Buckhead. And I know we are all feeling the pain of that. But as Rotarians, I know that we also see in all of this an opportunity to do something for this city and for this country. Just to share a little bit of the lens through which I view the world, I'm a real estate developer, as many of you may know, in my day job. I blame my father for that part of my DNA. And I guess one of the development opportunities that I am most grateful for was the chance to oversee the team that developed Ponce City Market. Ponce was an amazing asset. The old City Hall East, it had fallen on hard times. And so we gathered together a group of very diverse team members from design and construction, marketing, leasing, politics, legal, you name it. The whole team came together around the table. And we dreamed really big. And we worked really, really, really hard. And in the end, I think, and I hope you'll agree, Ponce turned out pretty well. And it gave something important back to the city. And as I've been thinking about the year ahead for Rotary, I think of a lot of the same things. Because here we are with Rotary, we have another asset, our beloved city, that has fallen on hard times. We have an amazing team, all of you, all of these leaders from all over the city in every sector, who come together once a week around a common mission and a common vision. And for 100 years, we have always dreamed big. We've always worked hard. About a month ago, we had our new member orientation, and I heard from this Mount Rushmore of former presidents. I think there were 6 of them there. They were all reminiscing about what's so special about Rotary. I was reminded about how Rotary founded United Way, and how in the 1920s, Atlanta Rotary bailed out Georgia Tech when it had fallen on hard times with insufficient funds. And then how Atlanta Rotary had started a safe drinking water project in Kenya, which won from the Gates Foundation later that year the #1 humanitarian project globally. That was Atlanta Rotary. All of these things that were done in the time of need for our community. And, well, here we are again. We've got another one of those moments now where our city needs us. So what do? Well, there are 3 things. We get informed, we team up, and we mobilize. We're really spoiled each week already that we have this incredible lineup of speakers that help us get informed about the landscape of our community. The Lieutenant Governor today was a perfect example. What an amazing program, and what a great inside perspective on where this state and this country is heading. Bill Hennigan and David Rubinger and their program committee are all set. This year is no different. They have this veritable runway of speakers lined up. People like Roz Brewer, CEO of Walgreens, Alex Taylor, CEO of Cox Communications, all coming to share with us each week their unique inside perspectives on this community and where it's headed. But it's not enough just for us to get informed and listen to a program every week. We have to team up. Let's face it, the real secret sauce of this club is the people here in this room, our membership. And we have about 500 of the top individual leaders in this city, but we also know that we are much stronger when we can do some things together. So this year, we're going to work on a little bit of that connective tissue and do some things that help us get to know each other a little bit better. Jim Reed is organizing a series of small group dinners hosted by our diplomatic corps. Billy Levine is preparing our first ever Rotary on the Road, which will be an opportunity for us to shake things up, take our normal Monday lunch on the road in September and visit the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, We'll have a behind-the-scenes tour and a conversation with Terry Fontenot, the new general manager, and do something a little bit different to get to know each other. And finally, we're launching a new initiative. It's a monthly Rotary Roundtable. So we'll be planting a question once a month at your lunch table and give everyone a chance just to talk together to one another as a small group. Finally, in the year ahead, we're going to mobilize as one Rotary team to do something great to serve this city. Past President Cannon and future President Stephanie and I, together with the board, are very excited to be working on a new multi-year initiative. The goal there is to really look at something that can help us move the needle for the city. We've all seen the research. Atlanta's issues have been studied extensively, and those studies all seem to have this common refrain. So if we want to increase employment and increase graduation rates and decrease crime and decrease that 25-year gap in life expectancy that I talked about, the real place to focus the laser beam is early in the cycle with our kids. You'll be hearing a lot more about this initiative in the weeks ahead, but the main thing that I want to share, the goal, is for us to work together as one team to align our capital and our volunteer efforts and the leveraging power of all of our organizations together to really point that laser beam and do something impactful for the city to make a difference. In closing, I guess I would say my invitation to all of you for the year ahead is to get informed, to team up, and to mobilize to do something really important for our city this year. My father always taught me as a developer, he said, you know, you can build all the great buildings in the world, but if you don't have your customers or the people in those buildings, it's just an empty museum. And I think very much about Rotary in the same way. Your Rotary leadership team is building an amazing year for you and an amazing path forward to do something that will really make a difference in the city. But the key ingredient is each of you. So please be on the lookout. We have some exciting opportunities for you to engage in the road ahead, and let's do something great for our city this year together. I so look forward to working with each of you and really appreciate all of you being here together today. Thank you. And now for our final piece of club business, I'm going to turn to past President Cannon. We're doing things all in the reverse order this year. Cannon is going to give his awards for the wonderful work that has happened this past year, since we haven't really been together to do so in person. And I'll be back with you in just a little bit.
All right. President Catherine, thank you. You bring, I'm already excited. I mean, you're already, 4 or 5 weeks into it, and you've taken the helm, and you've presented a great vision. And I know a little bit more than what you've already described, because I've just been part of the inner circle, and it's going to be exciting. So stay tuned. It's going to be great. All right, for the next, hopefully 10 or 12 minutes, it's time to look back a little bit and celebrate those achievements that our club members have done. The awards for this club are always an exciting time, and as you can imagine, they're particularly meaningful this year. They carry more weight than usual because, as the Lieutenant Governor outlined, the last 18 months, you know, we've had a global pandemic, we've had racial tensions, we've had political and cultural polarization. These are issues that are shaping our nation and are defining our period, our generation right now. And our club has been running right alongside thanks to the incredible and often anonymous work of our members. As you can imagine, we restarted the club 18 months ago. We had to rebuild it in many respects. But more than that, we ran alongside the city and found ways to help the city recover, to help our communities recover, and even help our membership recover. So our club was it's so relevant and so leading in the city, thanks to many of you. So it was a journey for the ages, and these awards today help tell that story. So we have 6 award recipients to recognize today. We have a selection committee for each one that are outlined in the bylaws. Thank you to those committees for doing their work. We won't bring them up all on stage today, just for expediency. I will MC it and hand out the awards. But I will say, from the president's seat, you can see the magic that our membership brings and the magic in action. And it's just such an honor to see. I often say 1 + 1 = 3 when our members get together and work, and President Catherine started alluding to that as well. It is amazing, and again, it's often anonymous. First, before just giving out the awards, I do want to just say a couple personal thank yous and a couple of recognitions. The past presidents of this club are amazing in how they stay involved. It keeps breathing the life into the club from tradition, but at the same time helps innovate and just bring so much leadership to the club. All past presidents helped so much this past year. In particular, though, I do want to thank Robert Ballantyne, Sonny Deriso, and Bill Pendleton, who basically on a weekly basis were accessible to me to help us rebuild the club. I also want to include, even though she's not a past president, and she's traveling internationally today, so can't be here, but Martha Brooks, every week, had amazing ideas, amazing energy, amazing counsel, and we are all better for just her efforts this past year. Billy Levine, you were mentioned earlier as club secretary and also as pre-screen chair and membership. You did so much this past year, often anonymously, not getting the credit. Thank you. You did amazing work. I also want to thank our eyes and ears in the community and our membership. Shan Cooper, Nancy Rigby, Bill Bowling, Katie Kirkpatrick. They were in positions to be able to obviously see what was going on in the city at a time of most need and love our club. And were easy links back to me and others in the membership to keep steering our work and focusing our work to keep it relevant and helpful. Wendell Riley also, just in the background, was so important in our efforts to be relevant to the city. And then finally, just a recognition too, for our past board chair, he can't be here today, it was last minute, is Dave Moody. Dave has an incredible heart. And if you follow Moodyville on his daily tweets and social media, he inspires so many people with the message of hope, speaking to victims of abuse, speaking to disadvantaged entrepreneurs, speaking to our community at a time when healing is so needed. He does it effortlessly, and at a time of the pandemic, it inspired me so much, and I know it inspired many of you. So Dave, if you were here, I would ask you to stand and say thank you let us say thank you to you in our message of hope, or the message of hope that you brought. All right, so now let's have some quick fun. Let's jump through the awards. The first award is the Fred Hoyt Hospitality Award. As the pandemic raged last summer, one of our first acts was to start reaching out to our fellow members who didn't seem to be engaged or just we couldn't reach, couldn't hear from. One of our board members says, this effort is going to be probably the most important thing we do of all the great things we're going to do in our club. So this person helped organize over 20 club volunteers to make 5 calls each. So we reached out to over 100 club members who we had not heard from. And were able to hear who was healthy, who was not, who was stuck at home, who was disconnected, who was having problems with emails. It was an incredible effort at connection, communication, care, and support. Then we did a second round of that, and this person organized that second round last fall to do a similar effort, just to continue reaching out to our club members and bringing them back into the fold. Incredible work, incredible effort. So Tommy Hills, I didn't get a chance to see you, but you are our award winner. Well, due to time constraints, we won't hand the mic to each recipient, but Tommy, thank you very much for your efforts. All right, the Bert Adams International Award. We were actually, even though we were so focused on our city for most of our work, we were reaching out internationally, and some of our members were doing some amazing work. And it's hard to share one award with many. The recipient who wins this one could actually win so many of our awards because of her just heroic effort. She brings a passion for global peace and progress that truly stands out. For this particular year, as a volunteer, her leadership she brought to the pandemic, she helped CARE USA pivot its work and basically set up COVID responses in 70 countries worldwide. CARE USA obviously focused mainly on the US, but they changed their model real time, and they developed over 1,000 projects that reached out to over 100 countries and reimagined them because of the pandemic. And they actually had to get each donor to approve that pivot and how they're using funds. An incredible amount of work. India, in particular, the hospital system collapsed, and CARE USA did so much to do the lifting there. It was monumental. It was work for the ages. And those funds in the U.S. were diverted to those countries in need. Now, she's traveling today internationally. She said, can I send a video just to tell people thank you? I said, you don't have to do that. But Martha Brooks is our recipient of the Bert Adams International Award. So let's give her a round of applause. I have a special award to give. This is not our usual award. This person who's the recipient of it has basically virtually won every award our club can give, except this one, because this one was invented just for him. It's a walking stick, but in reality, it is a magic staff of power, because this person, when they wield this stick, becomes the master of surprise. And I asked this person at the beginning of the year, who knew it would be the pandemic that it was, to help integrate some elements of surprise. And I tell you, we talked several times a week. He would always come up with amazing ideas that you would expect. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. But not only just in thinking of speakers and thinking of events and thinking of just bringing energy, some of the small things were awesome. He got Major League Baseball to approve us using a video segment during the year, which they normally wouldn't do. He delivered puppets for our holiday messaging from the Center for Puppetry Arts. He even delivered a leprechaun for us. So this award, one time only, goes to someone who I know is hiking a lot, but is going to wield the staff of power, and it goes to Bob Hope for our Chief Surprise. Mighty is the hand that will be able to use that staff. All right, 2 more awards, and then and 3 recipients. This is the Armin Mayer Award for Community Service. And let me tell you, at this time of this year, it's obviously a tough choice, but there were so many in our club who were doing things that were their jobs, but looking so much larger. And let me just share some of the names before we just recognize our award recipient that the committee thought of as they just reviewed the incredible work. Because our members stood up and led bigger than themselves in this crisis. John Hawkert and Nancy Rigby led a coordinated effort to provide food to the frontline workers in hospitals across our region. It was a Herculean effort. Getting hospitals to work together while they're overwhelmed was no easy task. And these 2 did that, and thank you very much. Doug Hooker played an incredible role as a key leader in our efforts as a city around eviction relief, engaging both public and private sectors. And I know Milton Little at United Way and David Edson at Cox Curry were also involved alongside with him on that effort. Incredible work. John Ahman, Westside Future Fund, did amazing work addressing the needs of the West Side. It's one of our most vulnerable populations in the city. Trust was low, crime was high, and many residents were living on the edge, and John kept people together helping each other, and it was an amazing effort. Michelle Nunn oversaw the pivot at CARE and really brought global attention in the media, not only to COVID and hospitals, but the impact it was having on women. So, and the list goes on. But I just want to be able to recognize the incredible work there, and it illustrates the high bar that this award, in particular this year, had. And the person who delivered for us this year did that unique ability of being able to sit as their role as CEO of the Atlanta Community Food Bank looking out in the needs of the community and linked to our club, where our club could uniquely make a difference. And it's that power of linking it to our club that really brings this award to heart. As you remember, this effort, we mobilized our club back last summer. We looked at a number of initiatives to help try to have an impact and help the city recover. We chose food insecurity primarily because by blending the existing infrastructure that the Atlanta Community Food Bank had with evolving partnerships and relationships, we were able to develop a new model. And Atlanta Rotary Club was an anchor tenant, an anchor investor in making it happen. This new model to address food insecurity basically took idle commercial kitchens, caterers who were in restaurant workers who were not in work right now, employing them and matching the delivery of over 500,000 hot meals to those most in need last summer and last fall. We raised over $300,000 as a club, thanks to each of you and one anonymous donor who did a matching gift alongside, and joined the Braves, the Hawks, the Falcons, Chick-fil-A, and Home Depot, among others, in tackling food insecurity. So the Armin Mayer Award for Community Service goes to Kyle Wade for that leadership. Last but not least, we have the Ivan Allen Club Service Award. This year it goes to two people because they were so vital in making our club tick, be relevant, and basically move forward. So membership chair and program chair are difficult jobs anyway. You don't win awards just for doing that, but it's selfless work, it's tireless work, and these two did those jobs extremely well. But they also stepped up in so many other ways. And just to give you a flavor, so they started saying, hey, Cannon, last summer, this is going to be an overwhelming job. Let us start meeting with you weekly to start getting your agenda organized. Because at the time, we hadn't even hired an executive director yet, if you remember. Linda was retiring, and we had not been fortunate enough to hire Jeannie yet. Clearly, they saw I needed some help, and I so appreciated it. They did an amazing job of getting in the weeds, and at the same time looking up and seeing strategy and being able to see around corners to basically help our club restart and rebuild. We all had late evening calls among ourselves, sometimes on Friday night, but they, even beyond that, they helped research and test the technology platform that we ended up using, that virtual format. One of the membership chair even enlisted her husband, who knew a little bit about technology, and I remember having several meetings over the course of weeks, and Clyde was in the background providing his expertise on technology to help our club. It became a family affair. What was needed is, as a final point, sometimes we disagreed, sometimes strongly, but that never mattered because of the bigger picture. These two put the club ahead of themselves, and our club would not have succeeded without their consistent, tireless effort. So I want us to stand and acknowledge Helene Morales and Bill Hennigan for their amazing club service. Thank you very much. That was awesome, and I just want to say thank you so much to every member of this club for making this past year possible, and congratulations to these award recipients. All right.
So we're going to trap you here for one more award. I'm going to turn it over to Sonny.
Thank you for staying a few more minutes, because there's one more award that we present every year, and we needed to make sure that the recipient was going to be here. I'm going to read from our book here. The Marion Collier Ross Leadership Award is an American Eagle that is presented to the member exhibiting the highest moral and ethical leadership in recent memory. The recipient is chosen by the club president, secretary, board chair, 2 past award winners, and 1 member at large of the club. Our recipient this year has served as membership chair, program chair, Sergeant at Arms, Vice President of Community Service and Vocational Service, Secretary, President-elect, President, has been a board member, and actually was going to be on this committee to select a recipient. This recipient actually nominated someone else. And the other members of the committee instructed this recipient to stand aside and let the committee select who it wanted to receive the award. Begrudgingly, the recipient agreed to do so. One of our members said this award should go to you, that recipient, for such great leadership during the pandemic. And we were unanimous in our choice. Now, in the last year, this recipient became the CEO of the company of which he was a member. He was the chair of the advisory board of the Center for Ethics at Emory. He chaired the investment committee for the Wesleyan College Foundation. Actually lost a parent during this time. But every week he was here and he was leading us in the best way we could have. As you heard his comments a few minutes ago as he was giving these awards, you heard him talking about rebuilding the club and rebuilding the community. And he provided great leadership in doing that. In case you haven't figured out who I'm talking about, it's our immediate past president and current chairman, Cannon Carr. Please welcome.
Sonny, thank you. I'm humbled, and as you've heard me say, I stand on the shoulders of giants. Every single award recipient this year, and those of you who even weren't even mentioned are why I received this award. Thank you very much. As you mentioned, Catherine, we're doing things backward this year. So, here we go. We're now going to transfer the gavel and be able to officially recognize Catherine as president because in a pandemic, you just do things backwards. So, I am going to, if I can, take off this pin. And as the Marines do, they slap it right into your shoulder. I'm not going to do that for Catherine. But this is actually Dave Moody's pin, and I've actually cherished it all year. I'm going to give you Dave Moody's pin, and I don't even know where mine went. And I'm going to let you have Dave's pin and officially recognize you, although, Catherine, you're already providing amazing leadership. And what's neat is Catherine and I have worked closely together the last 6 months, and Stephanie is already working closely with us, which is awesome. We're getting seamless leadership through the next 2 or 3 years, and that's going to be powerful. And you can already feel the power of what Catherine's talking about in uniting our efforts on a multi-year basis. So very exciting. And so, Catherine, you're already off to a great start, and thank you very much. Welcome to the president.
Before you run off, we have, just so you can have even more hardware, like an Olympic medalist, we have an official gavel for you, past President Cannon, and an official pin recognizing your leadership of the club. And as I said earlier, a few weeks ago, I could not be more grateful to follow in your footsteps. You have been an amazing mentor and trainer, and we'll just try to keep up the pace that you've set. So thank you so much. All right. Well, as we spring into action for the new year, I mentioned a few weeks ago our new officers. I would like each of you who are here to please stand up. This is a huge team effort, and I'm excited to be working with each and every one of you. Billy and Jim, let's see, Kevin, I know he's here, and Kathy.
She's in the back.
There you go. Anyway, please give a huge round of applause, Adrian, all of our new officers. As you can tell, Bill Hennigan, sorry missed you under the stage here. And David Rubinger's out of the country, but as you can tell, they have already been hard at work. This is a long runway to get to this day. I also wanted to say a special thank you to Lauren Kuntz, if she is here, and her assistant Holly Swing. They are organizing all of the band of volunteers at the badge board and so forth. You'll be having the benefit of all of their heavy lifting behind the scenes, but I really appreciate their leading the hospitality efforts. You met Gina Simpson, our new executive director who joined during COVID, but I also wanted to recognize Abby Harms, whose slide you may have seen. I think Abby's in the back maybe, our member coordinator. And then Lindsay Wallace, whom you've probably seen emails from about invoicing and accounting. Just want to take advantage of all of us being here in person, and a big round of applause and appreciation for all of their hard work. Finally, a reminder to pick up your much-awaited and new rosters. They are ready for you to take home with you as you leave today. Also, Gina has reminded me to please be sure you sign in. There's a QR code on each of your tables and also out front. Please be sure you do that before you go. And then last but not least, bring your autograph book next week. So excited, we're all in the Olympic mood, and we have the 25th anniversary of our own Olympics. All sorts of celebrities, former mayors, and Olympic athletes who will be here, so you won't want to miss it, and we're so excited to come back together next week. Thank you again for being here.